kiss and hug me. Come on, strong, go on and love me. Let's not waste that big old moon. Wake up and smell the perfume. Just say if you want to be more than friends.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Social Web Cafe TV interview. And today we have a special lady. Well, everybody on these interviews is special, but today we have Taya Silvestre. And Taya, I'm looking so forward to getting to know you better and hearing about you. I mean, I just want to sit back and I want you just to talk for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and just tell us about you. So.
Well, I love these kinds of interviews. You know, I think when we script things, we don't get to be as present and really have the conversations that are the juicy ones. So thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited.
Sure thing. Okay, you said juicy and the radar's up. No, is there something juicy you have to share?
Some juicy details. I don't know. Spill the beans. No, I think, you know, when you have a conversation that's just off the cuff, sometimes it goes down a different path that you hadn't expected, and it ends up being more full of good stuff than it might have otherwise if you just stick to a script and say, oh, well, these are the questions we're going to talk about, and there you go. Ah,
okay, now I'm with you, because I'm picturing like your theme with all the food, the kitchen, everything, and I'm thinking juicy, like something really tasty and juicy. Okay, I gotcha. Now I'm on the same page.
No, I know. I need to not use that word as much, because there's some words that get overused in marketing, and that's definitely one of them.
But it does explain a lot. I do that on radio interviews a lot. I like to trip up the DJ. That's probably not very nice to say that, but it's like, okay, how can we get this going another direction and really get it more lively? So I agree with you that it's a lot more fun and interactive and juicy.
Well, I will try to be the best interviewee that possible. And hopefully there's a few people watching that have questions that can chime in too. That'll be fun.
That'd be great. Oh, that reminds me, I should go check that. And if you are wanting to post some questions for Taya, you can go to socialwebcafe.tv/live. There's also a button there that says live. And there's a spot there where you can post some comments and put your questions in there. So I will watch that for questions. Cool. And, you know, I always say that, and I think people are probably watching on that page, and I'm telling them where to go. But that's right. If they're watching on Google now, they know where to go. In a nice way, of course.
Yeah. No, because you can crash somebody's Hangout, right? If it's public. Can't you? Doesn't Google, like, show them all?
Oh, crash. Goodness sakes, where is, like, I am, like, on so, like, different pages of dictionary. When you say crash, I'm picturing, like, the whole system crashing. You can tell I've had a few of those on the Hangouts. But, yeah, you can go crash them. We had one of those in a Hangout I did with Da Vinci, and I didn't notice that someone was crashing, but she kept ejecting this person. And I thought, wow, Da Vinci, you're not being very nice. And then when I was doing the video editing, I realized that they kept coming in and, like, you know, doing dog barks, all the little Google effects and fun stuff. But while we were talking, they were putting in all the different sounds. So it's like, okay. Yep, we got crashed.
Well, I hope that if they crash us, that we can incorporate it in a good way.
Yes, that's always the goal. So, Taya, I'm curious about your background. I mean, you are such a genius, and I realize that just comes from birth. That's just the essence of Taya. So I understand that we can't, aspire to be Taya. But I am curious, what is your background, like education, experience? Okay, guys, I gotta, how'd you get where? For those of you who don't know Taya, she is like the queen of reality TV via YouTube. She is, and we'll get to that. I want to ask you a question about Prosperity's Kitchen, but she's brilliant, these marketing concepts that you come up with. So I'm going to stop talking and give you a chance to talk.
Well, okay, so I have been doing marketing things for over 20 years, and my background really, I mean, I come from a place of just loving to read and loving to draw. Right. My hope when I was in junior high was that someday I would be a famous poet or a famous writer. And
you are. You made it.
Well, I mean, somebody might beg to differ with me on that. I don't consider myself that, and I have some serious baggage around what happened in school over whether or not I could be a writer. But I do love pictures, and I love words, and I love playing with them. And my very first business, which I launched right after my son was born. So I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was getting to that point where I think he was about a year old, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go back to work, but I don't want to go back to work. What can I do? Those kinds of things. And we were living out in the middle of nowhere. So I created a monthly newspaper that got mailed to all the houses in our area. There was like 5,000 houses. So it was a very small community.
I'm sorry, you said 5,000?
Yes, 5,000. So
postage must have been a reasonable price.
Well, yes, if you use bulk rate,
okay,
right, you can definitely afford that.
That's still brilliant, though, to even think of that. You're at home with this young baby and you just say, hey, I'm going to make a newspaper. That is so brilliant.
Well, one of the things I used to do when I was a kid was, while other kids were out playing Batman and Robin, or I was playing let's create a business. So I had a newspaper for the neighborhood that I used to handwrite and draw.
Oh, wow.
And this was before we had copy machines, and so there were maybe like 3 subscribers on the block. It wasn't a big thing. I had a little restaurant that I would set up in the living room and invite my friends over and be the waitress and the chef and all of that. I had a Chinese laundry. My sister and I were,
oh my goodness,
tasked with trying to my mom, so I come from a big family, and my mom was always pregnant, and me being the oldest child.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
No, it is kind of funny, but because she was always pregnant and I was the oldest child, I had to end up taking up the slack around the house. So one of my things was I had to do all the laundry, and it felt like being, like I had to do something with this because it took all day long to do this.
So you had to make some fun out of it.
Yeah. So we decided that we were a Chinese laundry and we were doing this for other people. So these were the kinds of things that I did as a kid. I created these businesses. So when I was 21, 22 years old, and I was trying to figure out, how to not go get a job, that's what I did, is I created a newspaper for my little area. And I sold advertising and, wrote things and had other people write things, and it was really fun.
That's amazing. You're the first person I've ever met that I did stuff like that as a kid, and I thought I was nobody does this, but I would set it up like I think I even set up movie theater where I blocked my parents' access to their own room and made that a movie theater because I had TV in there. So they had to pay to go to the movie theater. But I had my little cash register. I'd sell tickets. I'd have store, the whole thing.
Right
and I'd
on.
have the living room, and I'd have shows. And I don't know that anyone really came, but I still went through the process of setting up for the show for my family. But I thought I was the only one that did that. It's like, wow, I found somebody else that...
Yes, I did kind of a similar thing. I had a theater in the backyard, and it all came from one visit to the Goodwill where there was somebody had dropped off a prom dress, and it was this beautiful yellow taffeta thing with, skirts out to here, and it fit me. And I was like, okay, I'm Cinderella, and we're going to create this whole play and charge people money to come watch us put on Cinderella.
You sound like you took it a step further, though, and actually put quality on. I tried to do ad lib, improv Little House on the Prairie or something, and it wasn't quite working.
But have you seen that Kane's Arcade, the kid who recently, he created a whole arcade in his dad's auto shop out of cardboard, and then was creating tickets and selling tickets. And have you seen that?
Oh, wow, I haven't. I need to look that up.
Yeah, if you Google Kane's Arcade, it's Caine, Kane, Kane's Arcade. He's some like 10-year-old boy who, he was bored and he was having to hang out with his dad in the shop, and he decided to take all these old cardboard boxes and cut them up, and he did all kinds of fun things with them so that it looked like an arcade, and you had to come and buy tickets to play the things, and he had prizes and he had the whole thing. And
it's functional. It's not just like, hey, this looks like a prop kind of thing.
Yeah. And it was so much fun. The customers would come in to get their cars done, and then they would play with the little arcade. And it started, because we have social media now, his dad created a video and put it on Facebook, and it got viral, and they did a Kickstarter campaign, and this kid is just like famous now.
Oh my word. And okay, I'm embarrassed that I didn't know.
No, but think of what you and I could have done if we'd had social media back in the day.
Yes,
right?
yes. I don't want to date myself too much, but like my first album, if you will, that I put out, and I did it on reel to reel. So it was a few years ago, but it was like the stuff that I did back then was so innovative for its time. But wow, the tools that we have as far as social media and getting the word out and the downloadable music and everything, that would have been something.
Yeah. So, that's my background. My background is how can we play with this, and having a love of words and pictures. I have an English lit background. That's what I went to college for. I didn't go to college for marketing, although I did later go back and get a specialized certificate from UC Davis. But I think it's the communication is at the heart of marketing. And so that's really where my skills have been and what I love to do. And, I still haven't given up on my dream of writing a fictional book. I'm actually just starting to work on that now.
Cool.
So yeah, you never know, but that's Taya.
But you could write your fictional at you're 90, or you're sitting there and you don't feel like going on camera anymore. You just write and then have a whole nother 40 years of fame.
Well, I definitely don't think I'm ever going to retire. Yeah, I'm not that kind. I'll still be playing with businesses.
That's so true. That's even in the corporate world. Even running departments and doing all the corporate, I always had to have something entrepreneurial on the side. The idea of not having I don't care how much money it makes, but something entrepreneurial. Yeah. I felt like I would just like fizzle out and, like what is it in the Wizard of Oz and the water? I'm not calling myself a witch, but it's like, oh, she's melting.
I know. Well, when you get to a certain point in your career and things happen in your life, I came back to being an entrepreneur after 15 plus years in the corporate world, with little side stints in nonprofit and government. So I've really had a taste of all the different places that you could be an employee. And I just, I'm impatient. I want things to happen now. And the thing that I love about being an entrepreneur is you have an idea and you can run with it. You don't have to wait for the city council to approve it. You don't have to wait for the board of directors to approve it. You don't have to, not that I don't like to collaborate, but the fact that I would have to get approval from all these other people before I could play with my own budget was always irritating to me. And then to always be held to, these are your goals, you must reach them. And yet, if you want to do anything with, you still have to get it approved. It's like, so.
Well, and did you find in corporate America, because there's so many people involved and so many different objectives and opinions, even though you technically have one objective, there's going to be different opinions. Approval also could involve kind of watering it down, or it becomes something a little different than what you envisioned at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. So the business that I started when I was in my 20s, it helped me grow so much that it gave me the self-confidence to be who I really was, which at that point in time, my husband wasn't ready for. So we went our separate ways. And in doing that, I unfortunately had to give up that business and move. I moved back to the city, to Los Angeles, and got a job working for a bank in the marketing department. And I was part of the copy editing admin / traffic. I don't know if you know what that term is, but in marketing, the traffic person is the one who takes the project around to all the different people in the department who have to sign off on it.
Oh,
right?
okay. All right.
So you're like the traffic coordinator. You have to make sure that everybody has their voice heard. And what I found amazing was that this wonderful creative thing would happen, and then I would be taking it around to people, and they would kept changing it and kept changing it and kept changing it and kept changing it, and it would never freaking get done. It was like
scope creep or scope leap. That's what we said in project management. It's like, okay, creep is one thing, but scope leap is like now it's a completely different animal.
Right. Well, I think, in corporate life, everybody's so worried about spending money on something that not everybody is signed off on, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have 10 people that have to sign off on this thing, and they all have their own opinions about what it should look like and what it should be, then by the time it goes around 3 or 4 times, it's going to end up being watered down and
yeah. Exactly. So that's the advantage of what you do now, is that you don't have to go be the traffic coordinator, as fancy as that sounds.
Right. Unless I'm doing some collaborative project, but still, I'm more in charge. I don't really have to go to anybody else to get sign off on the stuff that I want to implement. It's like, let's do this, let's get it done. So that's something that I really love, and I think has made me almost unemployable. I hate to say that because you never know like what's going to happen in your life. But if any future employers are listening, that doesn't necessarily mean I can't work with your team. It just means that I prefer this life. Yeah.
I hear you though, because I've been a chief technology officer, and you go and you go, okay, I'll go help you with this project. Oh, no, you won't, because if there's an opportunity to climb the ladder, you will. And it's like, no, I won't. Like, yes, I will, but no, I won't.
Yeah. It's hard to keep all of that straight.
Yeah, that's why it's fun to be your own boss. There's challenges, definitely. It's not as easy as some of these those that make money fast and things that are tweeted and shared on Facebook. I don't find it that easy. I think anything quality, there's some percolating involved, which you would be the expert. All your euphemisms and things with the kitchen, which I love.
Percolating and simmering and slow cooking, and I think the more that I play in this online arena, the more convinced I am, and the more that I want to take a more proactive stance on the slow marketing thing. And that's why I do have that. If anybody's interested in what that means, go to slowmarketing.org. It's a very nascent little movement that I'm trying to start right now to counter all of that, get 10,000 fans and Listapalooza, and we got to do, build, right? Fast, 6 figures, 7 figures, blah, blah, blah. Like, not that that's not a good thing, but after a while, it's not healthy.
It's just numbers, and it's now there's 10,000 fans, and you've got to find the 50 that you really want to engage with on a regular basis.
Yes. Now, wouldn't it be fun, instead of doing some list building challenge where you get as many people as you can to build their list really fast in 30 days, if you could see what you could do in 30 days to build your open rates or build your engagement with your list, your click-through rates and things like that. Let's take what you already have.
I'm all about that. This year, I've said this in so many videos, I'm sure people are sick of hearing it, but my word is community. And I've said this too. I'm not one that picks a word. I don't go out okay, it's 2013, what's my word? Just pop in my head, but it's that desire to really connect with people rather than adding numbers. So what you're saying totally resonates with the 2013 for me.
Yeah, I am done with, and I did the Listapalooza, so I have to be transparent here and say, been there, done that. It yes, it built my numbers a little bit, but it didn't give me the satisfaction of having relationships with people, which is part of the marketing thing is know, like, and trust. And if you have people on your list who just got there because they wanted some freebie, they're not going to be the ones that open your email.
Exactly.
They're really not. So
that's so true, because I'm thinking about newsletters that I do follow, and I may get some freebies, but the ones that I really follow intently are the ones where I've paid money.
or you know, for some reason you signed up because you just love the content, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So
That shows.
it's a thing that I'm struggling with myself. You know, I recently, I don't know if you use Aweber. Do you use Aweber?
I don't. I tested. I really like FeedBlitz, but I've tested Aweber enough to see the huge value in using Aweber.
Yeah, and I switched to Aweber from MailChimp because I thought that I was going to be doing a lot more affiliate marketing, which I have since decided that it's not a good fit for me, you know, to market other people's stuff unless I've actually purchased and used it myself. I don't. Even if I love the person to death, I don't want to be somebody's affiliate if I haven't truly, you know, engaged with the product. So suffice it to say, I'm in this space of, should I go back to MailChimp? I really loved MailChimp. Well, Aweber just recently did a user interface upgrade. So they are a lot more, they're definitely not MailChimp friendly, but they're getting there.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
And one of the things that they did in the revise, so it used to show your open rates for every campaign that you would send out. And mine were always hovering around 40-45%, which I thought was fabulous. But I didn't realize that those were not unique opens. Those were...
Oh, that if somebody opens like 9 times, one person does it?
Right. And so when they did the revise, they revised it to unique opens. And so then all of a sudden my open rates are now like 25% if I'm lucky. And when you have, you know, and I don't have a huge list. I mean, it's closing in on 2,000, you know, it's not huge. But if only 25% of your people are opening it, and then from there it's like, okay, and how many people are actually engaged with your material and clicking through and responding? Does it make sense for me to be doing what I'm doing? Now, the people who do open my emails and read them are always telling me how much they love them, and that's why they continue to read them, is because, you know, it's enjoyable for them. I try to, you know, use some storytelling. I do a lot of sharing about my own life and how that involves marketing and all of the other stuff. So it's, you know, it's nice, but it's still only 25%.
Well, that's better than like, you know, 0.1% or something. But you know, it's funny that you said that, because this morning I was just analyzing, I mean, really getting into the numbers as far as the open and the click. And I realized that I've been doing a series and I'm sending out content, and most of them include a video, but not all of them. Well, it's hard to set, because silly me decided to put all the content in the email, so there was no requirement for them to go onto the membership site to read it, unless it was the video.
Right.
So it's the click-through that's really interesting, because when there's a click, it's like they really read it, versus, you know how when you click through your email, if you land on that email, even if you're not reading it, it will give the response that you opened it, and maybe you really didn't open it and read it. So the click-through is so helpful to see people that actually took another step of engagement.
Yeah, you're right, because it depends on what browser you're using and what gadget you're using. Because on my iPad or my tablet, the email, if I click on the email, it opens automatically, whether I've clicked it to open it or I just, you know, I'm going through. So it doesn't mean I've read it. And typically I'm just going through and deleting stuff really fast. I'm not reading it.
Exactly. In fact, I had to unsubscribe my daughter, bless her heart. I was like, honey, this isn't personal. I really appreciate you. But you're reading it like 20 times. And I know
you're throwing off my
I haven't found the unique one, but it was like, okay, this is really putting my numbers off in a good way, but I need the realistic numbers. So, honey, you need to log in and read it.
Yeah. Don't keep reading it 20 times.
That's love. But I mean, it's, you know, I don't know. Is she doing it because she's my daughter and she loves her mama? Or
no, she's probably just, you know, consuming it a little bit at a time. Right. I mean, I do that too. Like, I'll be in bed in the morning before I get out of bed. My husband's in the shower. I've got my tablet and I'm going through my emails, and I will delete stuff that I know I don't want to read. And then I'll have something that I've started to read, but then I get distracted and I save it. So I, you know, go back and look at it again when I'm logged in on my computer. And these are the kinds of things that we don't take into account when we're, putting our emails together. So what I did was, you can create a segment in Aweber and probably in others too, where based on who's opened or who hasn't opened, you can send an email to them as a follow-up.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I sent an email to people that said, checking in, please respond. To just the people who had not opened like the last 4 emails, according to Aweber. And I wrote it like a very personal note, like, hey, we haven't talked for a while. And, I wanted you to know that I really care about you. I'd love to hear what's going on. And, oh, by the way, did you know that the system that I use to send these emails is telling me that you're not reading them? And I just want to make sure, because I know sometimes that's not the truth, right? If somebody's reading the email in plain text or rich text, then it won't give that information back to the email system. So they could be reading it and it's just not registering as being
That
open.
makes sense.
So I
Wow,
said,
that's a good feature that...
Yeah, I think they use a little image as a tracking thing. So if somebody doesn't enable images, or they don't, or they're reading in plain text, then it won't ever register that they've opened the email. And so I was talking about that in the email, and I said, I'd really love to hear from you. Just please respond and let me know if you want to continue to stay on the list and what's going on with you. I'd love to, hear what's new. And I got maybe 100 responses-ish, back from people who said, yes, I want to stay on your list. I think there were maybe 5 or 6 who unsubscribed at that point, which was fine. But the ones who responded, most of them were telling me that they had changed their business, or they had gone back to a job, or they were just so busy with all kinds of different stuff that they just didn't have time. And so the thing is, we have to remember, but they still wanted to be on the list, because it's like, I love to read your stuff. I save them in this little folder over here so that eventually I'll get to reading them, which, may or may not be true. But it's like, those are the kinds of things that we need to find out about our community, like what's going on with them. So if so many people are shifting gears in terms of jobs and careers and businesses, and, I know that the life of the solo entrepreneur can be very unstable, and people sometimes give up too soon, and they're, for whatever reason, they have to go back and get a job or do something different. And we just don't know, what's going on with people unless we ask. So that was a really interesting, it was a very interesting exercise.
That's excellent. Speaking of exercises, and this is how I met you. Actually, you contacted Ann Smarty, who contacted me, but it's for the Prosperity's Kitchen. Yes. I love that. That is better than any reality TV show I've watched, a reality web show, or reality TV show on the web. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it for those people that haven't had the opportunity to watch?
Sure. I'll say the short version is it's Hell's Kitchen meets The Biggest Loser, in the sense that, we're trying to teach people to market themselves online and track their progress. So in The Biggest Loser, right, the people who win are the ones who reduce their weight the most. And in the Prosperity's Kitchen, the ones who win, they're based on missions that they accomplish and earning points and building their business. So the idea, well, I watch a lot of Food Network, unfortunately, came because I was at a conference. A friend of a friend had a ticket to this conference, and they were like, do you want to go? It's free. And it was like an $800 ticket. And I, at that point I was like, yeah, I want to get out of the house. So I went to this thing, and there were a couple of presentations there on gamification. And the light bulb went off for me. It was like, I had been struggling for the last year to try and figure out how to create a more engaging online class, right? So I've been teaching marketing to small business owners and new business people for several years now in person. like how do you write your business plan? How do you write your marketing plan? That kind of thing. And those classes are always so engaging. People show up, they do their homework. By the time we, there, of course, there are going to be a few people who have to drop because of whatever is going on in their life. But usually at the end of 12, 13 weeks, they have a plan. The physical, they can show me they've done the work, and that's lovely. So if your completion rate in person is around 90%, and then you go online to teach a class and it drops to like 25-30%, you get a little panicky. And then so I was like, what am I doing? What can I do differently? How can I change this? And in the process of all of that panic, and talking to other people who were teaching online, I found out that that's actually very typical, right? So
that you're normal. Taya's normal.
I was normal. Oh my God. No, I don't. But the thing is, if you're not looking somebody in the eye, and there's that accountability that's just not there, right? If I show up to a webinar and I'm sitting in front of my computer screen and I'm not looking you in the eye, Deborah. So these Hangouts are great because we can now do video conferencing, where before I wasn't able to do that with my classes online. I was doing webinars where you just had the PowerPoint screen and that was it. So they couldn't see me. I couldn't see them. The only interaction we had was voice. And then, of course, on the web. And I'm sure that they had their Facebook open or their email open or all of the above open at the same time that they were watching the webinar. And
I'm guilty. I've done that. If you don't have to see me and I'm, sitting in my PJs, I'm going to be popping all over. So that makes sense.
I have done that too.
It's not meant to be mean. It's just you're doing like 10 things at a time.
But we wouldn't do that if we were sitting in a class, right?
No, not so they could see me.
No, we wouldn't do that. And so I was like, okay, what can I do to change this thing that's going on? And the whole idea of gamification, of creating a way to have them compete, so they get a mission. They have to work together as a team to earn the points, and then they'll be learning as they go and competing, and that will drive them to complete the process, and we'll have a better completion rate and a better engagement rate. And so we started at the beginning of this 14-week process program with 5 teams of 3, so 15 contestants, public contestants. We had another group of people that were playing at home. Some of them were in teams and some of them were, just solo. But the public folks, I assigned to the teams. They didn't get to pick the teams, so they had to work together to tackle the missions. And what I found, it was very interesting. And you're right. I mean, it definitely, the people who finished, while we still had probably 30% drop, they dropped for reasons that had to do with it not being a good fit for either their particular time in life or what was going on with them. So, because I had said that I wanted this to be about collaboration, some people showed up thinking that that was going to be the main focus of the competition, but it was still a competition. So there was this problem of, is it a collaboration or is it a competition? And can we compete against each other if we're also on a team?
That's what I was just going to ask, is how did that work as far as, were the teams always working together? Were they competing even within the team?
I think there was mostly collaboration. The people that I chose to play, for the most part, really understood that you would get further along by helping everybody, right? But there was a whole continuum in there. There were people on one end who did the minimal, and then there were people on the other end who went above and beyond. So we had a whole range of experiences there. One person
dropped. And that's normal, isn't it? I mean, as far as personally, I'm an overachiever. So I would always say, well, how could you imagine anything except to go like overboard on your attempts. But I mean, I would imagine that it's pretty normal to have both ends of the spectrum.
Oh yeah, no, it is. And the challenges of teaching a class, whether it's done in a public venue like we were doing, or it's done behind the scenes, so you're going to have all kinds of different personalities. You have extroverts and you have introverts. You have people who are really committed and people who are just kind of half-assed there. So, we had all of that. And unfortunately, because what we were doing involved marketing online, there was a lot of technology that also had to happen. And so some of the folks weren't quite there in terms of feeling comfortable with the technology. And I think one person a couple of people dropped because they just couldn't, it was too stressful to try and learn that, learn about the marketing, learn about the technology, and compete and run their business. So there was too much of that for them. But, in the long run, we came away with some really good content. We had wonderful guest mentors like yourself show
Thank
up.
you.
And, everybody felt that they got a huge amount of value out of participating, whether they won or not. So that was what was
good.
most important to me. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Just the one I participated on, I thought 14 times this, it seems like there's such enrichment in this process. And I wanted to participate. I'm like, let me join the team. It looked like so much fun.
Well, the part of the good things about PK, about Prosperity's Kitchen, I wanted to do again, but not in a class. So I kind of divided things up, and I've got this new program called Creamed, which is
ask you about that too.
Yeah, that's another kind of takeoff on a Food Network show. So for those who've watched Chopped, who are familiar with that program, they'll understand what Creamed is about. So I couldn't use Chopped because it's a trademark. But basically what we're doing is I've invited people to compete who call themselves content marketers. So if you call yourself a content marketer, if that's what you do for a living and you think you're good at it, then show us your stuff, right?
Oh, I like that approach. So rather than bringing in newbies that maybe, like you said, feel too stressed because there's things that are beyond their ability within that time span, you're saying, hey, you say you're an expert? Yeah, show us.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't given up teaching. I took the content from PK and I moved it into a private year-long program so that we could take each one of the topics, and there's 12 topics, and work on them over a full month rather than try to compress it into a week, because that was another problem. People said, I just don't feel like I have enough time to really learn this stuff in 1 week.
That's valuable information, because I'm doing a 30-day thing right now, and I thought, I may need to spread this out to like 3 months because I feel like I'm just throwing content their way too fast.
It depends on if it's a lot of content versus multiple topics. I think if it's one topic and you're throwing content at them, I don't want to say throwing the content at them, but
did I say that? I probably did.
You're feeding them content, right?
Okay, there we go.
Right? We want to make sure that they can consume that content rather than getting too overwhelmed and shut down, because that definitely happens. And
see, I need to think about other people, because Taya, I love to be overwhelmed, but I'm an adrenaline junkie, so overwhelm me,
I know, and I'm the same way, and so this digital dining room is the new offshoot of PK, in the sense that, we're working on these topics, and I'm meeting with each one of the participants individually to find out how it's working for them, because I want to make sure they're not overwhelmed, that they're getting enough but not too much, that they're getting what they need, that they understand how to use all the technology that's being, because there's a website and a forum, and you would be surprised how many people have never participated in a forum before and don't understand how that works.
Wow. Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah. And not everybody's on Facebook. So we have a private Facebook group. So how do you, continue to get that engagement if not everybody can go there? So those are different things that you have to take into account and make sure that people get what they need.
You know, I'm just remembering now it seems like eons ago, but when I first started using Twitter, it was like, okay, I can put a smiley face, but I have to be careful. Okay, don't start it with a D or it's going to be direct message. And I wanted to do everything right. So it was like, all right, how do you do a mention? I mean, I sat there and stared at it and go, I want to make sure I'm doing this. So I had all the instructions, like, how do I tweet? Now I'm like, was it really that difficult? But I mean, you forget after you do things for so long that there was a point of learning.
Well, I mean, these Google Hangouts, for crying out loud, I mean, I remember the first time I was like, okay, I want to do the Google Hangout. I think it will work. But I was overwhelmed with, it wasn't intuitive to me.
It still isn't necessarily intuitive.
Well, it's not. I mean, I was all used to everything, and then they revised it. So now
they do that just to mess you up. You know that. That's.
Yeah, I swear it's enough to drive a person batty. But yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of things. It's like, well, if people are going to use this free tool, which is fabulous, how do you get them to that place where they can even come and watch you on a Hangout? Because that's even sometimes a barrier. It's like, I don't know how to watch, And so you have to think about.
Not to pick on Google, but that is not. It's not that easy. And like now their new system is for starting the Hangout on air. Google does a lot of things right. And Google, I say this in so many videos, I love you, but there are just some things that aren't intuitive.
Yeah. And hopefully they'll refine it a little bit at a time. It would be nice if they had I know they have Google Plus, there's a community that you can subscribe to for Google Plus, and it's a way to kind of keep it up to date in terms of what changes are going on and how to use Google Plus. But I haven't, and I'm sure there is found one that's specific for Hangouts that's run by the people at Google. There's people doing them, on their own. But I find it more valuable to have the people from Google actually participating in the community, because if something goes wrong, then you immediately can get assistance.
That would be really helpful. I guess I forget to look for forums because I'm one of these, not to be gender specific, but you know how guys they always say they don't use instructions, they just jump in and fix it, and there's extra that's kind of the way I am on technology. I forget I'm supposed to go ask questions, so I'll just get in and try to solve it. But that would be really helpful if there's a forum to actually discuss that, because we've had something scheduled. And I need to credit Ann Smarty. I'm just going to do a shout out. She's the reason that I'm addicted to Hangouts, and now I teach people how to do Hangouts, because she says, oh, we have to do my blog guest Hangout. I'm like, really, Ann? And then I did it, and I loved it. And like, okay, so now I'm Hangout queen, addicted to Hangouts. But and Ann is credited with me meeting you, Taya. So kudos to Ann.
Well, and I still don't really know Ann. She was selected by my then partner, Kim Doyle, when we were brainstorming, who we wanted to have as guest mentors. And we were on the SEO topic. I was like, I have no idea. I don't know anybody.
Smarty. There you go.
Yeah. And so Kim was like, let's ask Ann. She's a good person. So that's how we got connected. But yeah, I think what she does is really great.
She does. So I'll forever thank her for my addiction to Hangouts and the money that I can generate now training people to do that. And I promise I do this. I need to give you a shout out, which is actually a shout out for Carol. And why does her last name?
Carol Dodsley?
Thank you very much for the green room idea. That is a great idea.
Oh, good. So, yeah.
I want to give credit where credit's due. And if any of you are wondering what on earth I'm talking about in the green room concept, and Taya, you could explain it better, but we set up a link so I can contact Taya and say, hey, when it approaches the time that you are live on the show, this is the link you go to, and I will give you the live link to join the Hangout. And certainly add to that, Taya, because
well, I mean, if you think about when they do these talk shows and so forth, they have a green room, right, where the guests will hang out before they come on camera. And it's so easy, and it made so much sense because we were trying to do a reality show and have there be guests and all of that. Like, well, naturally we would have a green room, right? It's a virtual green room, and this is where you go, and this page never changes. So over the course of 14, 15 weeks, it's like, that's the link, and all the instructions are there. And you have some great tips on your green room page that I didn't have.
you.
Like, don't start the don't start the washing machine right before you go.
That happened. That came out of, like, true story. And I don't want to pick on the person, but I'm video editing. I'm like, what is that? And my husband's like, that's a washing machine.
Yeah.
You know?
It's amazing what your microphone will pick up. I mean, I have to turn off the fans. I have to turn off all of the, any machine that might be running in the house, and hope to God that the lawn guy doesn't start blowing the leaves, because that will,
You can't cover that up. That is just.
Oh my gosh. One week we had the gardeners were taking a tree out in front of my apartment, right outside my front door. Yes.
Oh my word. So what did you do?
I muted myself, and I had my co-host handle things until they went away.
Was that like the whole length of the episode?
No, thankfully they started the taking out of the tree very early in the morning. So by the time we got to PK, there was probably only 20 minutes left of them taking out the tree. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But, a chainsaw, it definitely gets picked up on the mic.
Definitely.
For sure.
Oh wow, you can't hide that one. We got one of these mics that actually won't pick up the washing machine, which is good, but there are some things like leaf blowers and chainsaws that will be picked up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we all figure out how to get around some of these things. I mean, the thing that I loved about the Hangouts is they are live. And so whenever you have some live TV, you're going to deal with, something crashing or something happening. Like we were talking about before we went on the air, the mailman showing up and pounding on your door and wanting you to sign for something. And it's just crazy. So
I think that's part of the appeal, though. Do you think that's why we're always so curious about the reality?
I would love to create some polished Hollywood something or other, but I don't have the skills for that. So I'm embracing my au naturel in the Hangout, and like you said, it's part of the fun. It's part of the real life thing that we're doing. So.
And like you said before the Hangout, as far as finding your comfort zone, I think that's important, to not try to be something that overextends you, overwhelms you, and to find where you fit. And you've definitely, this gamification of learning, this fun factor, you've definitely found something appealing within your comfort zone that's appealing to the rest of us to participate and watch.
Well, see, now the next thing after Creamed will be this anti-list building challenge.
Anti-list building.
Well, I don't want to call it anti, so it has to be pro, right? We can't.
Pro engagement, or is that
pro engagement? Yeah, I was trying to think of what a good title would be for that. Like.
Yeah, probably not the anti. That probably.
Well, there's Listapalooza, which is the one that, she does. The woman who does it, she has nothing but the best intentions behind that. She's really truly trying to help people build their lists. But when you see somebody doing that same thing over and over again, and all of your friends are participating in it, and everybody's like, oh my God, I got to build my list. Like after a while, you just want to, I don't know, I die a little bit inside every time that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I can understand that.
What could I do? What could we call it that wouldn't be Listapalooza, but it would be something. So this morning I was kind of brainstorming, and I was like, Engage-A-Rama, if you think of anything, but it would be a game. It would need to be some gamification in there. So it would be helping people participate and stay engaged, not just the ones that are trying to work on the engagement of their own community, but to stay engaged for 30 days and see how much you could bump up your engagement level of your list over 30 days.
I think that's brilliant. I found that when I have checklists, okay, go here. I mean, I don't want to live my life by checklists, but when I do use the checklist, engage on this form, engage on this form, it's so meaningful. It actually becomes relationship and engagement, but it helps when I have the checklist. So when you're talking about like an engage-orama, to help people actually practice doing that so it becomes a habit.
Yeah, and then to share their results, because not everything is going to work, right?
Right.
And this is all an experiment anyway. And that's the fun thing about PK and Creamed and all of the the digital dining room. It's like, this is not what normal people do for businesses. So,
okay, take it back. You're not normal. No.
But that's what makes it fun, right? Because it's different, and we're just trying to see if it works. We're trying to see if we can create something that has better engagement than, because online is different than offline. So
I'm trying to change those numbers as far as that 25%. Let's get it up higher so that it matches, or at least try, see what we can do.
Yeah, otherwise, why would I want to pay for all those people who aren't opening my emails? That's ridiculous.
Makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Okay, so how can we help you, Taya, so that you attract more huge sponsors for Cream.tv and Engage-orama? Do we help you by watching them as far as views? What are the sponsors looking for as far as interaction from us?
Yeah, there's a Facebook page that they could go to. So, and that is facebook.com/creamtv. There's obviously the website, cream.tv, and you can sign up to be on the email list there. Yeah, just watch and share it with your friends. That would be great.
Excellent. Okay, so at least on the engagement end, put a like on the Facebook. That's Creamed, CREAMED TV. So Facebook.com/Cream TV.
Yep.
And sign up for the mailing list, email list on creamed.tv. And watch those YouTubes. Yeah. And maybe people can contact you, Taya, to feature the final episode and a little write-up about the show.
Yeah, that would be awesome too.
See, I'm kind of like content marketing.
Deborah, don't you want to be a contestant?
Yeah, there we go. I'm thinking, and I'm like...
Well, I mean, when we say content marketing, what are we talking about? We're talking about creating blog posts, maybe a presentation, a slide presentation, or a small video. We're going to have everybody use the same free tools online, so there's like an even playing field, right? If you don't have Photoshop, you have to be able to access some other tools. So everybody will have the same kitchen to work with in terms of...
So that means I can't use my Final Cut Pro or Camtasia or Photoshop or...
No, because that would be, we want to make sure that everybody's coming to the table at the same...
No, that makes sense. And actually, that might be a fun challenge to say, hey, what can you do without the Pro Tools?
Exactly. Because the idea is to show the people who aren't, professional content marketers that you can do this with these free tools. So
excellent. I might have to check that out. And anyone else watching, visit creamed.tv and get to know Taya all the better.
Well, and
Taya exposed. No.
The raw naked Taya. No, I don't do that. That would be scary.
It might make money, but it's there's some things that I won't do.
Exactly. No, but I really appreciate the opportunity to come and chat with you and share some of this with your audience.
I appreciate having you. Thank you so much. It's been thrilling talking to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Taya Silvestre. Oh, what can I say? I love to chat, but hey, if you can make money talking, go for it.
Yes. We've missed our calling.
Exactly. Thank you, Taya.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Don't you want to kiss and hug me? Come on, strong, go on and love me. Stop waste that big old moon. Wake up and smell the perfume. Just say, if you want to be more than friends, got some love I'd like to make. Baby, you can squeeze me, I won't break. We could be in a paradise, you and me. Until then, I'll remind you again. Just say when. say